Hello, welcome back to 1874. I am your host, Dan Bardell. It's time for a full-time show. Aston Villa 2, Brighton 2. A very, very frustrating evening at Villa Park, I felt. Apologies, I'm not very well. I'm on my own because it's New Year's Eve and everyone is doing other things, which is absolutely fine. But I will say quickly, thank you to Luke Roper for continuing to sponsor us. If you want to get 20% off everything Luke have to offer, then use the code TVV20 and you'll get 20% off everything that they have on sale. Right, yeah. Don't even know where to start, really. Felt like it was a good game for the neutral. I think a lot of stuff happened in that game. There's quite a lot to unpack, and I will try and unpack it as best as I can on my own. As I say, I'm keen to get shows out still over, not be available to do it with me, but just wanted to come on and give some of my thoughts on last night. And I think frustration is the word of the day, really. To get off to a bad start in a game again after what happened in the Newcastle game in terms of conceding early. I think I saw that's 11 times now this season that an opponent has scored with their first shot on target against Villa, and teams are scoring with their first attack now against us. I think it's clear that we've got problems defensively. I think we were never solid, and we didn't keep many clean sheets last season, but we'd score more goals, and we just felt a little bit more resolute. At the moment, I don't feel like we feel resolute at all. I think the back four has probably changed almost every game this season, game to game. I don't think we'd have had a consistent back four or back three at certain points as well at any given time during the season. I think that's causing us problems, the constant change. The big one for me is Konsa. I think there's a few people at fault for that goal, that first Brighton goal. I think he's involved in it as well. I think he's having a difficult time at right back. It was a difficult night for Ezri Konsa. I didn't think he had a good game at all. He was really frustrating me. He looked visibly frustrated himself at times, actually, as well. There was a moment in the second half where he was trotting up for a corner, and Austin McPhee pulled him back just as he was starting to run, and you could see by the look on his face, he kind of pulled a face and had to go back and speak to Austin McPhee. He's having a difficult time. He's arguably our best centre half, on the ball. As an all-round defender, pace, I think Ezri Konsa is probably Villa's best centre-back. Shunting him out to right back every 5 minutes at the moment isn't doing him any favours at all. And, Cash has obviously spent time out with injury. We've had Bogard at right back at times, who it was up and down for him. Cash was suspended last night against Brighton. Konsa keeps having to move out there, and it isn't doing well for him. You're not seeing the best of Ezri Konsa playing at right back, and he got caught out for the first goal, in my opinion, along with some others as well. And you're off to just a bad, difficult start again. You're giving yourself a mountain to climb so early on in the game, and then it's compounded by Pau Torres going off injured as well. That didn't look great. There's murmurs that it's a metatarsal. We're probably looking at 8 weeks minimum from what it looks like with him out. Pau Torres, Mings and Carlos have struggled with fitness. Konsa is the constant in that back four. You've got to get him in that right position. And right now, unfortunately, you look back to the transfers, the summer window, even Nedeljkovic isn't going to be trusted to play at this point, which it doesn't look like he is going to be. He's in fleeting substitute appearances through the season. You have to say it's pretty naive that we didn't get in a right back in the summer. I know that there's PSR issues. I know that they wanted Gertrude from the Dutch league, obviously, who ended up going to Leipzig. Terrible accent from me there, so hopefully no one picked up on that, although they will have done now. I've pointed it out. But we've left ourselves short there, and it's becoming a problem. It's caused us problems probably all the way through the season. I think the difference was that last season we'd build up a bit more in a back three. This season, we don't want to do that. Emery spoke at the start of the season about wanting to build up with a two. So we're asking Konsa to play a bit more as an orthodox right back. You saw last night he was having to overlap and get forward. It's just not his game. So I've a lot of sympathy for Konsa, even though I thought he was poor last night and really had an off night. Defensively at the moment, people have been calling it out all season. Probably I've been a little bit in denial about it, but I tweeted last night, we're letting early goals, we're letting late goals, we're letting sloppy goals. And it's a problem with the masters of our own downfall a lot of the time. It doesn't feel like teams have to do a lot to score against us. And that's a problem. If you're having to score 2 or 3 goals to win a game every week, that's a problem. But the bizarre thing for me is that just look at how we've defended in the Champions League. And we've kept clean sheets. We haven't conceded many goals. Before the Leipzig game, we'd only conceded one goal, and it was that penalty. So it's a problem, and we're going to have to do something to rectify it in January. We know Villa are keen to get a couple of players in January by the sounds of it. That's the word on the street. You'd think one will be in the defensive positions, and you think one would be in the attacking positions, not so much a centre forward, but a multifunctional forward player, because they've lost Diaby and they've not really replaced him. We are short in that area, and we're definitely short at right back as well. So we'll do a transfer show in the new year, and I've been promising it. Jacob and I will go on and do a show in the new year, talking transfers. And of course, I'll be on Sky Sports through January as well. I'm sure I'll be getting to speak plenty of Villa in those stints as well. Watkins is my next point. You know, obviously scored a penalty, great penalty, kind of replicating the Harry Kane England technique. Good to see that he's got a technique down, because I've got to be honest, I don't fully trust him from penalties. So yesterday was a nice one to see him score. On the face of it, he's got a goal and an assist. He's harassed all night. He's done all the things that Ollie Watkins is good at, and everyone knows I'm a huge fan of him, and have been for years. And you know, personally, still, I think he's Villa's best striker. But I can see in recent weeks, Wideran's been playing over him. I understand that, and I've got no problem with it. So I said, you know, these next 3 games, although it could end up being more now, because it seems like the FA have absolutely got it in for John Duran and Villa. You know, Watkins knows he's going to get a run in the team. So it was no surprise to me when he knows that, to see him get a goal and an assist last night. And his pass for the second goal was absolutely sumptuous. It was a brilliant pass and a brilliant finish from Rodgers. So Villa have got back in the game, 2-1 up. You know, Watkins has been involved in both goals. Brilliant. You still feel we're susceptible defensively, susceptible in transition, and susceptible on the break. How many times can you say susceptible there? My issue with Watkins last night, and probably to an extent this whole season, last season I felt like he was running on pure instinct. He wasn't overthinking what he was doing, overthinking his motion, overthinking his movement, overthinking how, you know, when he shoots, when he passes. He's running into cul-de-sacs at the moment. He's taking too long to make a decision. And whilst he's taking that time to make a decision, chances are getting away from Villa. And that's what happened at 2-1 last night. There was a couple of times in that game when Villa were 2-1 up, where the Ollie Watkins of last season, I feel like he makes the right decision, whether that be a pass, whether that be to hold up the ball, or whether that be to carry on, dribble through, run through. There was a moment in the second half where he ran through and was kind of on his left foot against Brighton last night, and it reminded me a little bit of West Ham at home last season, where he absolutely lashed one into the top corner, and I think that was with his left foot. Those kind of things just haven't been there this season, and it's hard for him. I think he's suffering a little bit. You know, he didn't have a pre-season. I don't think that helped with him, but he's not running on instinct like he was last season. So we're not seeing the same Ollie Watkins that we've seen previously, and I'm desperate to get that back. You know, the work rate is always there, and I think that with the whole team, I don't think it's not quite happening for Villa at the moment. I think we are in a difficult spot. You know, Emery referenced that the league is still tight, and that's fine, but we are not the Aston Villa of last season. And me personally, I think it's too easy to blame the Champions League football for that. I think the squad is stronger this season. Maybe we're still short in a couple of areas, but I think Champions League football and playing the extra games is an easy excuse. I'm not buying that at all, to be perfectly honest with you. But Watkins is one of the players that isn't doing what he was doing last season, and for whatever reason, Villa are going to suffer whilst that's not happening, because he's our best striker. You know, all composure went out the window when Yuri Tillemans and Kamara went off the pitch, making 2 subs and bringing the 2 central midfielders on. I think he was going to make those subs anyway when we were protecting something at 2-1, and he continued and made an extra sub as well through Matson on, because we conceded whilst he was trying to make the substitutions. Anana put in probably one of the worst 10-15 minute cameos I think I've ever seen in a Villa shirt. It didn't look like he'd ever seen a football before, which was quite concerning. I understand it's difficult for players coming straight into a game, but making the 2 change and taking off both central midfielders, I get that they're both probably running out of gas a little bit. They've both played a lot of games recently, and Tillemans has probably started every Premier League game this probably every Champions League game, I think, as well. Yuri Tillemans, I understand why they came off, but composure in the midfield area just went all out the window when Yuri Tillemans went off that pitch. I have to shout him out, because I'm saying everyone's working hard, and that's true. Tillemans is the extra mile. You know, he runs his socks off every game. He runs into areas that, as probably a number 6, you wouldn't expect him to be running into. He's arguably Villa's most important player in the way he knits it all together, you know, and passing just went out the window when Tillemans went off the pitch, and we didn't really make anything happen when it got to 2-2. And I do think Tillemans being off the pitch was a reason for that. I do want to talk about Leon Bailey. Again, I actually think Villa got worse when he went off the pitch last night. It's not happening for him at the moment in terms of getting goals and assists, really. He hasn't scored a goal this season. I was really hoping he'd see out 2024 and get on the score sheet, but it hasn't happened. Again, it's not for the want of trying. He's working hard. I think last night was a really good example of a good game from Leon Bailey, but just no end product, unfortunately. But he'll be one that will get critics, but I don't think he was a problem last night. I think Leon Bailey played actually well in the game against Brighton. Maybe people were worried about him coming into the team, but I think he had a good game, Bailey, and I actually think we got worse when he got off the pitch. And the problem we've got now is if you take him off, there's no alternative because Philogene clearly isn't trusted. He's not up to the level, in my opinion. Unfortunately, it may well be that in time he gets up to that level, but the fact that Bailey's coming off and he's reluctant to bring Philogene on tells me that they think he's not ready at the moment. And unfortunately for him, Villa got rid of Diaby. Villa spent 15-20 million on Philogene. We need him to be ready, and that's why I'm saying we need a player in the attacking areas now, because we look short. We look like we can't change it up. It's great to have Ramsey back, and it was great to see him come on, but I don't think we can't guarantee that he's going to stay fit. I know you can't guarantee anyone to stay fit, but at the moment, Jacob Ramsey injuries have been a big problem for Villa. So I think we're one short in attack, and I think we're one short in the defensive areas as well now, especially when you factor in that Pau Torres is probably going to be out for a fairly substantial period of time. But I thought Bailey was good last night. The problem is that we're not getting goals from enough areas. It's the same old sources that are coming up with goals for Villa at the moment. Leon Bailey would have got double figures last season. I'm wagering Diaby got close to double figures, if not double figures. Louise was in double figures, reliable goal output. I know a lot of Louise's were penalties, but he scored some others as well that weren't penalties and scored some set pieces and whatnot. You've taken those goals away from the team and they've not really been replaced. Ramsey's a great goal scorer, but he hasn't been on the pitch. Rodgers has scored goals. I mentioned in the last show, I think Barkley, considering the minutes he's had, his goal output's fine, and then it's either Watkins or Duran, and you're hoping for a goal from them. But McGinn isn't getting goals at the moment. And Nana was getting them at the start of the season. Goals from midfield areas aren't really there at the moment, and we need them to be. And a bugbear of mine for a long time is that defenders just don't get goals. I know we score a lot from set pieces, but sometimes you need to win a game by one goal. You'll need one of your defenders to pop up. I remember Konsa scoring ahead of this season. Cash scored, didn't he, against Brentford? But generally, we don't get enough goals from the defensive areas either. So I just feel all round at the moment there's not enough sources of goals. There's not enough people chipping in. So maybe that's something that Monchi and co will look at in January. But the main problem is we're shipping way too many goals. You can't ship the volume of goals that Villa are conceding. We're at a -3 goal difference in the Premier League at the moment. If that carries up at that rate, we aren't going to get top 4, top 5. It's not going to happen. You don't get top 4, top 5 while sitting on -3 goal difference. It just isn't something that's happened. And we need something in January. Now I'm backing them to turn it round. It's fair to say, we're coming to the end of 2024 now. 2023 was a superb year for Aston Villa. And 2024 has been a superb year as well. We're playing Champions League football, something that most of us could have only ever dreamed of. But we aren't the same Aston Villa that played in 2023. And, I was hoping, the reset in the summer, it would come back together. And I felt, we were building at the start of the season. We were winning games without playing particularly well. The Christmas period sums us up a little bit for me in that, 1-1 draw 1. We're very, very inconsistent. And I get that it's a weird Premier League this season. I completely understand that. But at the moment, unless we change something, we're not going to get top 5, which I think, for me, 5th has to be the aim. This season, 5th has to be absolutely where Villa are looking to finish, and then you hope that it's enough for Champions League football. But at the moment, I can't see us getting that, because when we're not doing things that we were doing well last season, we're not the same team. So something needs to change, and I'm sure it will. Unai Emery works all the hours under the clock. This is a good bunch of players, at the risk of sounding like David O'Leary. They work hard for the badge. They love the club. They all want to be here. They're all pulling in the same direction. But I think the stuff I've mentioned is just accumulation of things at the moment that just aren't coming together for Villa. And it was a really frustrating night. It feels almost like ungrateful to be sat there last night, like I wasn't feeling frustrated, and I feel ungrateful for feeling that way. But we just do some really, really frustrating things as a team at times. we played out from the back last season, but sometimes that some of the areas we choose to do it in, and it's not as sure. We don't feel as steadfast in what we're doing this season. Last season, I didn't used to worry when we were playing out the back. At the moment, I do, and I'm not saying we should change it because I absolutely don't think we should. But I think sometimes we do it at the right times, and sometimes we do it at all costs, and at times we make mistakes and we look vulnerable to conceding goals, and it's a problem. Defensively, we need to be sorted out. That we can't keep shipping in the goals at the volume that we are, because we're not going to win enough games to get to where we want to be. So that probably does it. Thanks to those that have joined in on the chat. I haven't brought you in with me, but I was, to be honest, just trying to reel off what I wanted to say about the game, and I can't do two things at once, so I was finding it very difficult to read the chat and talk on my own at the same time. Normal service will resume in the new year. People will be back around again, so you won't have to just listen to me on my own. I know it's probably a pain. I know it's probably not what you've tuned in for, but I just wanted to do a show and get something out there after the Brighton game. Thanks again for all the support this year, whether it be on social media, whether it be on here, or whether it be with all the other stuff I do as well with work. I really, really appreciate it, and I'm hoping for much more in 2025. Always wary that I'd be nowhere without the people that tune into this channel. So thank you very much, and I hope you all have a wonderful night tonight, and see you in 2025 with your friends and your family, and that everyone's in a good place. Be back on what day is it? I don't even know. Be back before the Leicester game, obviously, to do a preview. Hopefully Dave Reid is back from his travels and back with me to do a preview. Thank you ever so much for tuning in throughout the year. It's really